When you shoot on manual, you can use shutter speed to change the look and feel of your photos, and in this video I'm going to share with you how. When you're choosing your shutter speed, you've got two choices. You either have to think to yourself, is something moving fast and I need to use a fast enough shutter speed to freeze that movement, or alternatively, do you want to use a slower shutter speed that can show some of the movement in your image? Shutter speeds are measured in fractions of a second and several seconds, and they work on a scale. If you have moving things in your pictures and you want to make sure that they're captured frozen in time, then you need to make sure that you use a fast enough shutter speed to freeze that movement. If you have children that are running around in a park or on the beach, then you might want to use a shutter speed of around 180th of a second. If you're photographing animals or sports, then they tend to be a lot faster than children, so you generally need to use a faster shutter speed to make sure that you freeze that movement. You probably then want to use a shutter speed anywhere from around about 500th of a second to around 1,000th of a second. Some cameras have shutter speeds of 8,000th of a second, and believe me, you would never need to use a shutter speed that fast. It's all marketing gimmicks. At the other end of the scale, we have slow shutter speeds, and these are often called long exposures. With slow shutter speeds, this allows you to show movement in your image and also to capture the night sky, because you need to bring in as much light as possible into your image, so you need to use a longer shutter speed to allow all that light to come in. One example of using a slow shutter speed here is when you photograph waterfalls. Here you can really experiment and use a shutter speed from half a second to several seconds, depending on how much water is actually flowing and the effect that you want to get from your image. So you might have a lot of water flowing and you want to smooth it out, in which case you'd probably want to use a longer shutter speed there. You might also want to use a slow shutter speed when you're taking images of the sea. Now this is where you have to think to yourself, how much movement do you want to actually see in the image? You maybe just want to see the waves doing their thing. If you use a shutter speed of a few seconds, then you'll begin to see a little bit of blur in the sea. But then if you want to have the water completely smoothed out, then this is where you want to use a long exposure of several minutes. Then you'll need to use a neutral density filter as well, and I'll talk about that in another video. One thing to bear in mind when you are using slow shutter speeds is that you do need to use a tripod. I would recommend that you use a tripod for any shutter speeds that are slower than a 60th of a second. So a 60th of a second, a 30th, a 15th, and anything slower right through to several seconds. The reason for that is that you can't hold your camera steady for that length of time before your hands begin to shake. And when you shake, that's when you get blurry photos. So with shutter speed then, that allows you to make the decision, do you want to have images that are blurry, that show movement, or do you want to have images where your subjects are captured sharply? I'm Anne Johnston, and I would love to help you take control of your camera and unleash the creative that I know is within you. Remember to subscribe for updates.